Bear with me just one moment as I am just trying to get everything set up on here. Was a little bit hit and miss actually today. A few little things happen, then when you get a sequence of events and you just think, oh my goodness, but I'm here and just about getting it sorted. But thank you for joining me live or for watching me later. This episode is our second episode, and it's about why local politics need to change. And we'll be doing this every Tuesday. And I think what's really important is you'll get to be a part of us growing. You'll get to see us as we're progressing forward with our life feeds. I also want to thank those of you that left me a few comments last time as well. We'll pick up on one of those later on. But it is really nice to have a few comments. The feedback that I get as well will also help me as I'm progressing forward. So, I'm more than happy to receive feedback, and it's good to be able to respond and have those types of conversations. Moving forward, we'll do them live as well. But technology will takes me a little bit of time to get used to that. So let's begin with what this week is about. So, this week is about something really, really important. It's about why many people are feeling like disconnected from local politics. That is why local politics needs to change. And it's not that I'm attacking any individual. This is about our systems. Our systems aren't working. Our culture. It's about our priorities. At the minute, we're just not getting things right. And until people do learn to prioritize and we do use systems that work, then how can we expect our quality of life to ever get any better? Too many people feel that local politics happens around them rather than being a part of them or for them. So, why do we think that people feel that disconnection? People often don't even know who represents them. And when you look at how different councils work, obviously you've got town councils, parish councils, city councils, district councils, county councils. And even for me, myself, as a councillor, I've been a councillor for a year now at county council level, I'm still learning things. So if I'm still learning things, imagine how difficult it is for those that you're representing to really understand what it is that you're doing. I'm still learning things on a daily basis. So I understand that for a lot of you that aren't elected, it can be difficult to sort of know exactly what it is that each council is doing for you, or how to go about getting the information and help that you're needing. Um, I think also one of the main things to remember is a lot of people recognize more when politics is going wrong rather than when it's going right. So when you've got, for instance, bins not being collected on time, or you've got roads still looking in disrepair. Maybe there's still many potholes. Maybe there's the side of the roads haven't been looked after very well. Things like that. Things like planning disputes. It's when these things are building up, when these things are going wrong, that people start to notice. And that's when they start to reach out to us. And like when you've got services that are not running correctly, at that moment when it's going wrong, people want an answer, but then they don't know where they're getting that answer from. So it's really important to reconnect with local people and really make things known as to who can help, how we can help, and what it is we want to be able to do for you. Remembering that we are elected to serve the local people around us. I think also a lot of times politics from a local perspective feels like it's um, distant, like it's controlled by overall parties, that it's disconnected from everyday life and more about a national feel. And that also then creates or feels like there's more of a barrier there. It's evident also when parties with majorities in a council, for instance, find a reason to not vote on something because it's come from an ideology on the other side. Like I think I mentioned last time, if someone on the left put something through, people on the right don't necessarily want to agree, and vice versa. But what should be happening is we should be looking at, is there a reason not to put that through? If there's not a reason not to, just because it comes from the opposite side doesn't mean that it's not helpful for certain people within our local areas, our society. And we need to start being balanced. We need local politics to remain at a balanced level rather than people keep taking sides, because it's not helping us to create that better way of living. Um, and just remember, there are great ideas on both sides. You don't have to agree with them. You have to respect the fact that each community in each area has its own needs. And sometimes we just have to agree to disagree and do what is right rather than ignoring the other side. Of course, there are some defining moments in cabinets where when you've got the majority, that majority leads the cabinets. There will be some defining moments there where it will need to be more of a party message than a local message. But that's just the overall feeling of it in sort of like county plans. But you build those by understanding your local area, and you have an open mind to how you then go about delivering those. So I think what we need to focus on is that people should not feel ignored also between elections. Have you ever noticed how during election time, you suddenly start to notice that there are people around you wanting to represent you. People come out and, they're knocking on your door, they're putting a leaflet through, or they're trying to do something. Like during that time, there's that active feeling around local politics, but then it disappears again. What we need to do is bring that into everyday local politics, ensure that we are actually going out there, not just when there is an election, but so that people know they can come to us and that we can, help them rather than ignoring them between elections. So has local politics became more or too political? So point scoring, internal politics, political games. I've said it before, I'll say it again, that the political field has become more like a playground, even though we are adults, all trying to do a really important job, or we should be looking at this as a really important job, wanting to get elected, wanting to do something amazing for our communities, yet we're acting like we're in a school playground. Is it any wonder that really we're not getting things done because we're too busy trying to score points politically, getting at each other if we're not on the same side? We really do need to put that on the back step. I'm not saying we have to praise everybody on the other side. I'm not saying we have to agree with everything. But I'm saying we do need to spend less time getting at each other and more time focusing on what people actually need us to achieve. I don't think there's enough focus either on practical delivery. I'm sure you will agree with me that solving local problems, improving quality of life, these are the keys to unlocking a much better way of living. Yet, and of course, again, about thriving and progressing, you need a thriving and progressing community. But I don't see that happening. However, us as a party, we believe that when local politics is delivered correctly, it should help to shape national politics. Local representatives should be able to create a clearer picture of what is needed, the challenges that are in a local area, what's working well in a local area, how to prioritize, for instance, the difference in a need in their area for adult social care compared to maybe educational needs, or um, maybe to do with community building and things like reliable bus services. Like each area can paint its own picture. It's not going to be the same in North Kent to East Kent to South Kent to West Kent. We need to start creating that picture, that bigger picture, so that we can deliver properly for our local communities. Think about it. Residents don't wake up thinking about political arguments as such. They think about things that are important to them, things like housing services, things like whether they've got a reliable bus service to get them from A to B, whether they can even get what they need when they get to A to B. They look at things like opportunities. Are there job opportunities? if they were needing a house tomorrow, is there that matching supply as there is to demand? These are things that local people think about. They don't look at the political arguments that are going on. So we need to bear that in mind as well. Like, what are we talking about? What are we putting out there each day? Are we talking about these needs, or are we just all talking about political arguments amongst ourselves? Politics should focus less on ideology and more on the actual outcomes. Um, I think also what we need to think about is representational needs. So think for a moment about how you elect someone. So we all come out, we're all looking for your vote. You vote for the people that you think are going to stand by what they say, that you think will treat you fairly, will have your best interests at heart. Now, if that person is not part of a major party, if they're an independent, part of a smaller party, then although they get elected equally like everybody else, and although they won't be able to, of course, be in the actual main cabinet and be deputy or chair of a committee, but it should be that they get to have a say at committees. They should be an active part of committees. That shouldn't be stopped just because you're not part of a bigger party. At the end of the day, each area, each community deserves fair representation, and they've picked the person that they want to represent them. Are we allowing or giving priority to people that are part of bigger parties when it comes to just representing local need? That shouldn't be the case. And that is something that we believe needs to be turned around. And we will bring in a policy that allows that to be turned around. And we will ensure that local people are represented fairly. Um, because it's not even just about fair representation, it's about being able to hold people accountable for what they're doing. It's about local input. And one of the most important things is building trust. How can you build that trust if those people are not able to deliver for you in the way that you need them to? So things should be kept democratic and fair rather than bitter. If residents elect someone to represent them, that voice shouldn't be sidelined. That person should have equal opportunity because those people need fair representation. I think politics also needs more listening. Um, what we're going to do is bring about our listening and visibility tour. So it's about spending more time within the local community, speaking directly to residents, hearing people's concerns firsthand, but also building. As part of building our Southeast plan, it will also see us talking not just in the high streets to people, but also going to businesses, service providers, finding out from them what they think is needed from us to be able to ensure that they can be more efficient in what they're giving, that they can do as well as they're hoping, provide what it is that they set out to provide, because obviously we play an important part in that. And if we're just sitting behind a desk and listening to what someone else's assumption of that is, then we're never actually getting the real answers for ourselves. And it's really, really important to understand that. Um, and like I say, also being on the high street, letting people come up and ask their questions, giving people information, like asking what their biggest challenges are. Sometimes it's not about just saying, oh, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that for you. It shouldn't just be about what I'm going to do for you. It should be, what do you need me to do for you? That's very different way of looking at it. And I've learned from politics that I've gone out there and I've delivered a leaflet and I've said, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z for you. I stand for X, Y, and Z. Fantastic. Some of you love that, some of you won't. But hang on, even if you agree with me, there's still other things that you need. Like, how am I listening to what you're needing? I'm just telling you what I presume I'm going to do for you. So good policy starts with listening. I think communities often already know the problems that they have. Another important reason as to why we should be connecting with people in real life terms rather than just, again, sitting behind a desk, turning up to a meeting, and presuming that the stats that people have put together, or what they're telling us is real, is actually real. You're not getting the clear picture. You're not getting the best picture that you can by doing that. Meetings are not everything. It is about actually finding out for yourself. Best ideas can often come from real everyday people. And that's why I'm also a great believer in encouraging everyday people to stand in local politics and even in national politics. I don't think you need to have a degree to understand what somebody needs. You need to have life experience. You need to be able to listen. And you need to be able to communicate. That is how you provide what is needed for local people. It's not about what you studied, what you've gained, whether you have money. It's about, do you understand the challenges that people face in normal life? And if you don't, are you able to not just listen, but hear what's being said, take it on board, think outside of that box, and actually do all that you can to deliver a change for them? Because that's what's really needed. Listening to everyday people, they will give you the answers that you need. I think another issue that we face is, it's like practical solutions versus endless debate. So I think a lot of times, and you'll probably agree with me, what you hear is a lot of political people just debating things. They go over and over and over it. And the main things that get the most attention, they'll go over again and they'll bicker from the left to the right about that one topic several times. But what about bringing up new solutions? Why, if people spend as much time talking about possible solutions, regardless of whether they're right or wrong, talking them through, debating on the actual solutions rather than the issue at hand, then surely we would actually get more done. I think it would be much more efficient if we're sat there and we've got, I don't know, a topic of discussion. And rather than pointing out why it should be this or why it should be that, throwing out there with each other, okay, what if we tried to attempt this method of making it better? What if we tried this? What if we did this? Have we ever thought about doing that? Have we tried this? What if we just put out the ideas rather than debating why something is wrong, talking about why it angers us, talking about the issues it causes? It's not always talking about what's wrong. It's about how can you make that better? Local politics will change for the better the moment that we focus on how we can do things better. Shouldn't be about trying to outdo the opposition, constantly, putting the other people in a box. It's about just thinking more broadly, being open to ideas. One of the biggest issues that we face, and I'm sure I brought this up last time, is housing issues. There is way more demand than there is supply. But also the cost of living affects the ability for people to be able to buy a new home. That means that many people can't stay in their local areas. They're moved elsewhere, whether it's through choice because there is nothing else available, or whether there is no choice and their local council have had to put them somewhere. It's breaking up communities. So rather than making communities stronger, we're dividing communities, and we should be trying to change that. We should be trying to turn it around. But again, we're not painting the correct pictures locally regarding the housing need. And when you think about the cost of living, how are everyday people supposed to save money as such to put towards a deposit, to put towards getting a mortgage when they're just about barely able to get through the month and afford the necessities that they're needing? So what we've done is we've identified a practical way to improve, and it will improve housing, and improving housing will improve quality of life by helping first time buyers, which in turn will rebuild again that stronger community and will keep people within in their local communities, which is such a key point. But also another way of, and things to remember here is it's not just about keeping the housing local. We need to also build more job opportunities to be able to keep people local and stop them feeling like they actually have to go elsewhere. And I think people are tired of hearing about problems when other people aren't actually attempting to solve them. So, again, let's put effort into the ideas that we have to provide an outcome that actually works rather than just continuously arguing over the actual issue itself. So, when I say a better way of living locally and local politics needing to change, what does that actually mean? It means we need more transparency. We need to feel connected to each other and our community rather than divided. Again, the left, the right, nonsense. Stop the division. We must make balanced local decisions and not ideological national ones, and more practical, less tribal politics. We should be able to have more respectful discussions with each other, even if we're on different political spectrums. Our belief doesn't have to be the same on an overall national scale, but we do need to come together about and decide on is how we deal with things locally, focus on local need. And if we can focus on local need, then we can focus on improving living standards rather than political point scoring. Focusing on economic patriotism. Now, we're going to bring out a policy that is about, it's actually entitled Economic Patriotism. Remember that we must be able to prioritize the biggest needs, and to do that requires putting ourselves out there and meeting as many local people as we can to build that image of what Kent needs, whether it's north, south, east, whatever that is. We all must get out there to build that picture properly. We cannot just rely on information from stats when we're sat behind a desk. We must get out there, meet people, have a desire to change people's lives and to understand local need. That is how we change local politics for the better. And of course, every area deserves fair representation, not to be ignored if their candidate is outside of a big party. It doesn't matter outside of the specific cabinet roles. Every single councillor is elected to represent their area. Every single area deserves fair representation, and we will bring out a policy that absolutely secures that. Um, so let's put it there that local politics should feel closer to the people that it represents. Let's bring together that divide. Let's actually bring people closer, solve issues. So thank you for joining me. I feel as though, like I said today, it was a little bit hit and miss, but I'm thankful that I'm here. Technology is not brilliant, but hopefully I've got through everything there and didn't waffle too much. Um, it was great, like I say, last time to have a little bit of feedback. One thing I actually am going to comment on, to give a little bit of an answer back to, was a few people actually now better understand the name, Better Way Of. Brilliant. I think they were missing the statement that made, so that's fantastic. But I had a few comments on the actual logo. So, the logo, could I change the logo? It looks a little bit like another logo. The logo itself, just because an arrow is an arrow, doesn't mean that the arrow is the same type of arrow. So I think our logo represents an arrow going in the right direction. So again, a better way forward. It's going at speed. It's an arrow of speed. It has a few outlines to it. And then, of course, it's in this oval shape and it's all different shades of like purple. I think the logo itself actually makes sense for the topic, makes sense for, well, I shouldn't use the word topic, it makes sense for what we're standing for. A better way of living, progressing forwards. That arrow is pointing towards how we need to progress. And I think that that is, um, I think that's a great kind of logo to have. I know you could have, I know, like Labour have a rose. I don't really understand, apart from being an English rose, what does the rose represent from Labour politics? What does a tree represent in Conservative politics? I mean, the Green Party had a meaning. They were used to be very focused on, saving the environment, green. Uh, but yeah, sometimes I don't really necessarily think that when I look at a logo, it represents what it should. But when I look at mine, I think, well, actually, better way of, it's written in the middle. It's an arrow, a speed arrow as such, not just a block arrow, a speed arrow, going in the right direction. It looks like a forward direction. I think it's great. But of course, do come back at me with more comments on that. That's absolutely fine. Um, Next week, we will consider topics such as housing and home ownership. I might go through the policy for that. We might look at the future of coastal communities. And one of my first questions in the council, when I had a question in our main council meeting, was about how we can, in a sense, build up more traffic in coastal areas outside of season. Because a lot of times we obviously get a lot of seasonal visitors, but what is there for people outside of seasonal times? And I think we need to focus on that a little bit on some coastal areas. But also, another topic I was considering was rebuilding trust in the public. So, yeah, we'll have a little think on what next week's episode is going to be about. And of course, if you do have any questions for me, please do leave them here or send me an email with them in, and I will endeavour to get back to you or to read them out, one or two of them, if time allows. And maybe in a few weeks' time, we'll actually just have a live discussion where it's not so much about me rabbiting on about any topic, it's the question and answers. You ask me the questions, I will answer you. If you'd like that, let me know. And if you think that there is anything I've missed with regards to how we should change things locally to better local politics, make it more efficient, then also let me know, because that is how we get to build our plans, by understanding what your needs are. So take care, have a lovely evening, and I will speak to you soon.